Hi, this is Dave Michaels. I'm with Zeus Caravala, and we're going to talk about Zeus. The big news this week is Mitel and Unify. You wrote a post on it. Why don't you go ahead and hit the high points?
Yeah, it's funny. Everybody been calling for consolidation in the UC space. People have been looking at the UCaaS vendors, but my thesis is it's been a little early for the cloud to start consolidating. But, Dave, there are a number of traditional on-prem vendors in that market. I think does need to consolidate. In many ways, the spirit of Rich McBee,
even more so, and the on-prem vendors have consolidated. And Mitel's the one that's been doing most of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, the spirit of Rich McBee lives on, right? They acquired a lot of companies. I heard this deal was actually in the works. It's been in the works for a long time, even back to when Mitel made this pitch for Avaya. This was in the works, and I like the deal because I've maintained, for a long time that if you're, for companies in that kind of traditional on-prem space, there's a lot of money to be made in it if you manage it correctly. But if you're going to do it, whatever strategy you pick, you got to go all in, right? And so they partner with Ring for cloud. They're not distracted by trying to fix the old short tail business. So this gives them a bigger base. And when you look at the combined numbers, Dave, it gives them, they showed a chart this morning, 75 million total global users, 5,500 employees. They're in over 100 countries now. And from a share perspective, I think it puts them and Avaya like 1 and 1A. And who knows what Avaya will look like post restructuring if they maintain their customers. But they will have the largest install base, or at least tied with Avaya for the largest install base. And so that's an install base that's worth trying to monetize. I use the analogy, it's not a lot different than what Dell has done in the compute space, where they went and bought EMC, they consolidated servers and storage, and that company prints money. So, is it a declining market? Sure, right? But look, if there's 20, 30 million cloud seats sold, we're still talking less than 10% of the overall TAM. So, there's a long runway for this company to be able to make money off of your traditional on-prem install base.
Well, like you said, the deal's been going on for a long time. I mean, Atos has been trying to sell this division for quite some time. And I like the press release because the deal hasn't closed, but the press release says that Mitel is in exclusive negotiations. And I love that term because I don't know anyone else is going to be showing up. I mean, Mitel is a very logical acquisition partner. Both companies are premise-based or private cloud focused. Neither company has a cloud offering. Let me rephrase that a little bit. They both have RingCentral partnerships. That's interesting, and the two RingCentral partnerships are very different. And so with the Unify or the Atos deal, they're reselling. They are not reselling. They're a master agent for RingCentral. Very similar to the way the Avaya and Alcatel-Lucent Enterprise deals were set up. But the Mitel deal is very different, where they're letting RingCentral do the sales process and the branding, and they earn a back-end commission in a different way. And so now Mitel's got two kinds of different RingCentral partnerships. Unify also has a NICE partnership. And so that gives, assuming that transfers with the deal, Mitel now has a NICE partnership, which they kind of already had because RingCentral was selling NICE as well. So it's, some interesting things that coming out of both of those.
Don't you think they simplified the Ring partnership and just move everything to the Mitel model? I think that's if you believe in the Occam's razor, the simplest solution is normally the right one, and to me that's a simpler model. And it allows Mitel to go do what Mitel wants to do, and that's find different ways of driving innovation into the traditional UC space.
Well, it's kind of interesting because RingCentral is a NICE partner, but NICE is kind of a fairly high-end comprehensive contact center, and there's been rumors in the past that RingCentral was going to launch a more simple contact center solution for some of its smaller customers, and they would have two. Mitel basically has that. Mitel has a contact center solution. And so now Mitel's got kind of an enterprise class nice solution and their own solution, which could scale up to large implementations, but is more appropriate in the smaller mid-market space. So Mitel's got two contact centers, one cloud, one prem, assuming this all transfers over, and it actually positions Mitel nicely with a full. They could really double down on that contact center play. I think there's a lot here, and you covered a lot in your post on No Jitter. Thanks for doing that, Zeus. But I think there's a really fascinating backstory here with Atos. I mean, you and I, we've been following Unify for quite some time, back when it was Siemens Enterprise, back when it was just Siemens for that matter. And there's a lot of interesting parts to this story. And one part that I wanted to hone in on is the story of Ansible. And if you recall, I don't remember the year, was it around 2014 or so, when they kind of gave us a peek of Ansible, which became Circuit. And that was kind of pre-Slack. This was really early. Yeah. And they had a very strong, clear vision of where they thought communications had to go. Now, they didn't build what they showed us in Ansible. Circuit was a little downscale. They didn't go the full way that they wanted to go. But if you look at it, Slack, as you know, sold for $27.7 billion. And we don't know what Mitel is paying for Unify, but we know that in 2015, Unify sold for $371 million, not billion, $1 million. It'll be like Dr. Evil here. So I wonder what about that missed opportunity. And I have to say, when I first saw that Ansible demo, I didn't fully get it. I didn't fully appreciate it. It was a little too far out for me. But within, I don't know, a few months afterwards, and after I started really playing with it and understanding more about that vision, I really felt that could have been a game-changing moment. I mean, that was a lost opportunity. It was really, really sad to see that didn't come to fruition the way that that team wanted it to come to.
Yeah, it's funny, I did put in my post that Siemens Enterprise was actually very innovative, right? They had the first software solution. They were the first to partner with Microsoft. Even OpenScape was really the first kind of graphic UC solution before they launched Ansible, which was part of the rebrand to Unify. There were a lot of good assets there. They still do have a lot of large customers, though. And that's one of the things that's interesting from a Mitel perspective is when you think of Mitel and small market, mid market, and Siemens had some big customers, and they still have some big customers, and so that allows Mitel to play up market a lot more where they haven't, in the past. And it also gives them a managed service business. I'm curious to see how they manage this with their channel. But, and I talked to Graham Bevington about this, their chief sales officer, yesterday. He said, look, for a lot of the big enterprises and global companies, our channel can't really provide comprehensive services to that audience. So if we allow our channel to do what it does best, which is mid-market, and use the Siemens services business for those larger enterprises, that creates a nice kind of, mesh of the two. Obviously, there's going to be some overlap, but then that's contingent on the company to manage that.
Well, managed services goes together really nicely with the premises-based and private cloud solutions, and so that'll be, I think, a really smart move for Mitel. Obviously, a big expansion in Europe for Mitel as well. When Mitel made its announcement, what was it, 2 years ago with RingCentral, there was a lot of question about, what is Mitel's future without its own native cloud solution? And, Mitel was pretty quick to say, actually the premises business is growing. It's doing better than many people realize. And consolidating and expanding the professional services, expanding the geographical footprint, this is actually a pretty nice, clean deal. And we know that Atos wanted out. I'm not sure Atos ever wanted in, to be honest. I mean, I got the feeling that Atos pretty much acquired Unify to manage their Siemens account, which they've successfully completely transitioned to Teams.
Well, I think, Gore owns a piece of both, and I think they kind of pushed them together and said, we're tired of this too and stuff. So that was never, to your point, I think Atos was forced into this. And that, even when we used to go to Atos events and stuff, it'd be 90%, a lot of services stuff. And, if the Siemens stuff or the Unify stuff showed up, it was in a very small way. So. Yeah,
they're a very broad company, and they've got a lot of irons in the fire. And so The other point of history I want to bring up in this story is the Unify brand. When it originally came out of Siemens and it became Siemens Enterprise Networks. Networks didn't make sense once they sold off the network part of the business, and they did the brand launch of Unify. It was a pretty significant brand launch. They went. It was name change, logo change, everything. It's a good name. And then when Atos acquired it, if you recall, they kind of got rid of the brand. It kind of disappeared for a while. Everything was just Atos. And then I think once they realized that there's a possibility they're going to sell this off, they kind of rebranded it Unify again and brought everything back. Now the question is, does the Unify brand survive within Mitel, or does Mitel just replace it with Mitel? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think over time it'll go Mitel, but I do think in certain areas like Germany, you'd want to keep the Unify brand around. Although I don't know, maybe not, David. It's the association with the old Siemens Enterprise is important. But to your point, maybe Atos already did that. Got rid of that for them and stuff. So I do think Mitel probably has a more globally recognizable brand at this time than Unify does. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them eventually do away with that name.
Do you have any thoughts on whether they're going to consolidate the portfolio? I mean, they've got now. I mean, when they did their acquisition and merger with ShoreTel, for example, they ended up phasing out those ShoreTel phones and sticking with the Mitel endpoints. I'm wondering if those Mitel endpoints will replace all those endpoints on Unify. And with RingCentral's offers, what they've done is the Unify offer, of course, works with Unify phones, and the Mitel offer works with Mitel phones. I believe it's the same offer, and so you could use either phone with either solution. But the question is, how many phones and products does Mitel need? It's been a problem for Mitel in the past.
I would think they'd rationalize the portfolio and go down in the Unify portfolio eventually go away. To be honest, I'm not sure how much innovation Atos really did with Unify, right? Like has there been if it's more work to get that product up to where Mitel is, it might just be easier to cut everybody over to Mitel.
I got the impression most of the innovation was actually on Circuit, and Circuit is now a property of RingCentral. It's interesting how RingCentral keeps coming up in this. RingCentral is holding a lot of premises-based technology that they are. The IP Office powered by Google is owned by RingCentral now, and just a lot of technologies when they make these deals end up over at RingCentral. But I would assume that Mitel will consolidate some of this portfolio. The phones are kind of the easy one because they're all SIP. The platforms have been hard for Mitel in the past, and of course their technology. What's the technology called? It also went to RingCentral, but the way that they interface.
Cloud, Cloud Bridge, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, they have a very interesting cloud technology to standardize their interfaces to their platforms.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, I think I've covered this topic as much as we know, but it's exciting. I'm actually pleased with this acquisition.
Yeah. The one sort of remaining piece is what happens to ALE remains the kind of lone holdout from that era too. So in China, one of the things I put in my note, I'd actually like to see Mitel go after that and pull it out of China Huaxin. They've really done, that's the network business there. Actually, I think can stand on its own and compete. But I think the Rainbow business is long past its prime, and that would be another install base of Mitel. Once it can continue down this path, that's where I'd look next. So, and
then bring in another RingCentral offer into Mitel. And then that one will come with Avaya's cloud experience platform offer. So they actually have two contact center solutions at Alcatel-Lucent Enterprise. But as far as I know, Alcatel-Lucent Enterprise is just doing fine with what they're doing. They've got a large base, and I don't know if I haven't heard rumor that they're for sale.
No, and China Huaxin's got deep pockets. I have been disappointed though. I remember when that China Huaxin took them over. When I was on it, they were explaining to me that the goal was to double ALE's revenue within 5 years of that, and they were supposed to do it both organically and inorganically. And I sent them ideas of companies that could acquire, like Aerohive and things like that on the Wi-Fi side. they never made one move and stuff. So it's
but they've done pretty well with the network side of the business, and I don't know if Mitel would actually be interested in the network side of the business or not, but Alcatel-Lucent's done really well with that network side.
And let ALE just become a network company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it's been great talking to you, Zeus. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.